Please bring in Mike Wilner from Deep Left Field Podcast. I'm going to read from the CP story. Toronto Blue Jays president and CEO Mark Shapiro says his 9th season at the helm of the Blue Jays has been by far the most disappointing to date, but Shapiro hinted that GM Ross Atkins will get a chance to rebuild the Blue Jays into a contender this offseason. This on the day the Blue Jays blew another one out of the bullpen and lost to the Orioles yesterday. Mike, what did you think about the comments from Mr. Shapiro yesterday?
Well, if you really know what I think, if you really want to know what I think, Rod, and thanks for having me, check out the new episode of Deep Left Field because it is entirely about that. However long availability it was, I want to say 25 minutes, 17 minutes. It was something like that, and I broke it down piece by piece on this new episode, 16 and a half minutes of Mark Shapiro, and really, it was, I mean, he should have done this a lot sooner. I think the president of a club that is having a year as terrible as this one, failing to meet expectations to such a huge extent, I don't think there's a reason for him to have waited until August to talk to the media. This was the first time we talked to him in that sort of setting since spring training. But basically, I think, he's can only say so much. And as much as everybody wanted him to go out there and say, yeah, I'm firing Ross Atkins and I quit myself, by the way, that was never going to happen. So he said what he could say. He gave us a couple of insights, I think, whether he meant to or not, into what he's thinking. He did get testy a couple of times. I don't think he especially likes doing these availabilities with the media, but I don't think there was anything in there that really surprised me.
None of them do. There's a lot of things in life we don't like to do, Mike, and you know this. You know this. It's part of the job, right? Yeah. Was there anything? Listen, I want to go listen to your podcast now. So it can be found at all podcast platforms, I assume.
Wherever finer podcasts are available, just put Deep Left Field into your phone or go to thestar.com and search Deep Left Field and you'll be right there.
Is it the sense, I'm just a casual Blue Jays fan, the sense I get is that Shapiro and Ross Atkins are sort of tied at the hip kind of thing, a package deal?
Yeah, that's
is that the way that it is?
I've always had. Yeah, they came together from Cleveland, where Mark had been at the top, first as GM and then as president of that club for about 15 years. And Ross was a player in the Cleveland organization in the late 90s and moved into player development and into farm director and director of player personnel and all that stuff, worked his way up the chain in Cleveland. And Mark thought of him as a terrific general manager prospect, and also someone that he knows well and can, I think Shapiro still has his tentacles, for lack of a better word, all over the front office as far as baseball operations are concerned. He's got his hand very much in it. So someone that he knew he could work with that way. It's always felt like they've been joined at the hip. I wondered a little bit last year after that playoff exit and after Atkins' disastrous news conference where he basically, as much as he loves to say he's accountable for everything, he said that was, entirely John Schneider's decision and the controversial one to remove Jose Barrios early. I thought there might have been a chance that Atkins wasn't going to recover from that, but he did. And it's difficult to imagine Shapiro parting ways with Atkins. He talked in that yesterday in that scrum about how much he values stability and consistency. But honestly, I and everyone else who's down there every day just simply believes that you can't be this after 9 years and keep your job as a general manager. You just can't.
I'm with you. Darcy in Grand Prairie writes in and he says, our hitting approach has been atrocious for almost 2 years now. I have a conspiracy theory. Don Mattingly is a mole, sabotaging our batters like George Costanza, all while he waits for that Yankee manager position to open up.
How about that?
That might be a little much, but do you think Mattingly ever takes over the Yankees? Do you think he goes back into a managerial role after this stint with the Blue Jays somewhere?
I mean, I think he'd love to, and I think he's widely respected in the game. But I don't think A has anything to do with B. It's always mystified me how much fans are willing to blame coaches for poor performance on the part of players. The Blue Jays haven't had a consistently poor hitting approach for 2 years. I mean, maybe Caleb Joseph says that they have, or something like that on TV. So you're believing that. But the truth of the matter is, these hitters are smart and professional ball players, and their livelihood depends on their success. And if they're listening to a coach and doing the things that the coach is telling them to do, and it's leading to a lack of success, they're going to abandon that after like a month or 6 weeks. They're going to say, look, this is what you're telling me. This is what I'm doing. It's absolutely not working. I'm going to go back to doing the things that worked, that made me a great hitter. So, a coach, there's no player that's so scared of a coach that says, all right, I'm doing what you're telling me and it's not working and I'm having the worst years of my life, but I'm going to keep doing it because this is what you're telling me to do. So that's not what's happening at all.
Gotcha. Finish this sentence for me, please, Mike. It's the last question I have for you. The Blue Jays were the most disappointing team in the majors. Now, wait a minute. The White Sox probably are, but the Blue Jays are the most disappointing team in the AL East this season because blank.
Because, I mean, there's not one thing. It's because going back to this winter, the front office did not address the glaring needs that this offense had in the offseason. It's the fact that after seeing them struggle to hit so much last year, they decided not to go out and get the 2 power bats that they needed, but instead to double down on the pitching and defense that got them to have such a hard time with the offense last year. They depended far too much on internal improvements that didn't happen. Then once the season happened, they didn't hit for 2 months, and then the bullpen that was already hurt and on its last legs by Victoria Day got even more hurt, and they had to use a bunch of pitchers who just weren't up to the task, and they went from requiring 4 runs to win a game to requiring 10 runs to win a game, and that's just not possible. And then 2 weeks ago, they pulled the chute. So it's all about the kids now, and this team that, everyone whose job it is to predict baseball in the preseason, this team that every one of those people thought was going to make the playoffs is going to finish in last place.
Gotcha. Mike, you do a great job, and you always have. Thanks for this. Everybody go to Deep Left Field Podcast for Mike's breakdown of Mark Shapiro's media availability yesterday, and enjoy the rest of the season, Mike.
Thank you, Rod.
All right, Blue Jays podcaster and columnist Mike Wilner. Wilnerness.